Is it surprising that the demand for Turkey to close its base in Qatar and to pull its troops out, is that surprising that that's part of the list?
Recently, Rex Tillerson, the Secretary of State, asked the two countries, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, to provide them with reasonable and actionable list of demands that they want Qatar to take in order to reach out to a resolution to this conflict. The list today we have is more difficult, or rather impossible, to comply with. Basically, they're asking the Gulf country, the Qatar, it's a kind of, dictating their sovereign affairs by imposing these far-reaching requirements. For Qatar, it is impossible to cut relations with Turkey. It is impossible to close up the Al Jazeera network. These two demands mainly are too difficult to comply with. For Turkey, it is really difficult because for some observers here, they believe that it was the checkmate movement from Turkey to the Gulf countries, that it is beyond imagination that Turkey is going to leave Qatar alone in this crisis. It's not allowed for the Gulf countries, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and the United Arab Emirates to dominate over Qatar and believe that Qatar is completely isolated. Still, Qatar is a strategic ally to Turkey, and Turkey believes that it should stand by them, help and support them to the end.
Is there any room for negotiation here for Qatar?
Of course there is. Previously, Qatar made some concessions. If you remember, in 2014, Qatar closed Al Jazeera Mubashir Misr, the Egyptian branch of Al Jazeera. Qatar also made some concessions for extraditing and deporting lots of people that the Saudi Arabia gave them a list of names, and they already deported them. So the Qataris are showing some kind of understanding to the demands. But this time, it is really difficult to meet these requirements. And the provoking a paradox as well, we just noticing that it took them more than 2 weeks to prepare this list of demands. Now, what they're asking them to cut ties with to Iran. Iran shares with Qatar the biggest gas field in the world, and if they do this, of course, in the list they have, they're saying that you can keep the commerce and trade relations, but you need to cut all diplomatic relations. The United Arab Emirates have diplomatic relations, Oman have diplomatic relations. So it's more incapacitating Qatar by these kind of conditions that are far-reaching and really difficult to comply with.
And this, of course, is after the new Crown Prince bin Salman was appointed in Saudi Arabia. Is there a link between that and these hardline demands?
I believe so, yes. Mohammed bin Nayef, the deposed, the removed Crown Prince, was more pro-Qatar, was more pro-Turkey, and he was like preferring the voice of wisdom, rationality over the irrational measures that they're taking now. If bin Nayef is still in power, I think that he would take more reconciliatory tone with the Qataris, and he would work more on negotiating the conflict rather than resorting to this 10 days. They're giving them 10 days to comply with the list. Otherwise, the worst is coming. The tone is very clear, and they're giving them no room for negotiation, as you asked. The list seems that it's more imposing what the other countries want, neglecting the sovereignty of Qatar, believing that it's more a province in Saudi Arabia. It's not an independent state, and that completely contradicts and conflicts with the charters of the GCC itself, because it does stipulate that each country is completely independent as far as It's complying with the general policies and strategies of the GCC. Part of the list is supporting terrorism, and they're saying that Qatar is supporting Al-Qaeda, Taliban, Hamas, and the Muslim Brotherhood. But the point is, this was based on the Washington demands. Taliban has an office in Qatar because Washington wants to negotiate with Al-Qaeda and Taliban. The only way to do this is to have these guys, these groups in Qatar, so you have a kind of a diplomatic channel to negotiate with these. Otherwise, they will be isolated and you would never be able to reach any kind of reconciliation, which is impossible in the diplomatic arena.